Hello, Maurice.
Hello, and hello, everybody out there in the world. It's me, Maurice Carlos Ruffin.
And you are going to answer my questions because you somehow trust that I'm not going to be horrible and mean and,
I think
you know.
you're going to do a great job. I can feel it.
Okay, well, good. My first question is, why did you choose to write about a black man who seems really uncomfortable with being a black man?
I think that I was thinking about how in our society in general, we are very individualistic and we're sort of taught to own ourselves under any circumstances. Whatever you are, this is the country where you can be great, you can make money, you can own property, you can be successful over the long term. However, anybody who's part of a marginalized community knows that that is just a pipe dream. Whether you're a woman or queer or a person of color or black, or those things will all tag you. If you're disabled, if you have a speech impediment, those things will all tag you as different, and that different sort of changes your value. With the narrator of We Cast a Shadow, I think that I was trying to have somebody who was clearly empathetic and intelligent, but who was really asking himself these questions constantly. He is just thinking about, well, yes, I am me and my self-worth means something, but at the same time, if I walk around with like my chest out and my chin up, I will get hit in the jaw over and over again. So I must create ways to protect myself. And of course, it's not pretty to watch. He's not somebody whose techniques I want to replicate in my own life. But I do think that, like many good protagonists, he raises the kind of questions we should be asking. Why would anybody ever have this mindset? And so that's really his purpose. I think that good books ask questions rather than give answers.
That's a very good point. So why is he so determined to make his son be white or whiter?
Yeah, well, I mean, at the core of the book is a father-son relationship, a family dynamic. And it's funny because I'm not a parent, but I have had plenty of readers say, wow, you did a really good job with this father-son relationship. And if there's one thing you understand from being a child myself of parents, is that parents' main job is to protect and nurture their children. It's to keep them safe and help them become self-aware and independent. Well, when he sees his son in this society, which is a little bit of an elevated version of our society, there's racism and there's bias and there's inequity. He's just thinking, I could teach my son to be an activist, which would be a noble cause in his life, but it may not change anything. He may face the same barriers throughout his life. And so it's kind of like, well, what's the shortcut? Well, if he's a white kid, none of those questions of race will come up. There's no police officers going to pull him over and maybe shoot him. There's no store owners who will, tail him around a store. Nobody would kind of say, yeah, don't date my daughter or son because you're a black person. And so what it really is that I think people say it's satire because he's taking the solution to his farthest conclusion. He's not saying like, pull your pants up or like speak more properly. He's saying literally be white and that's going to solve your problems. And of course, in a very sad and absurd way, he's right about that. But of course, Nigel as the son is his own person. He's not quite having it.
That's right. That's very clear in the book that Nigel doesn't buy into his dad's agenda at all in this area. Does the protagonist marry a white woman because he has a problem with black women?
That's a good question. I do think that there's a part of him that has devalued the possibility of a relationship with a black woman. But I think the way that he is written in the book itself, he does love some black women, like his mother, for example. But I think that it's one of those situations where it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? He happens to meet a woman who's white, they fall in love, they get married and have a child. I don't think if it had been a black lady, he would have kind of said, no, this can't happen. But I do think that for him, there's a convenience to it. And I think if you sort of, put his arm behind his back and twist it, he would go, well, yeah, I was thinking it'd be a little bit easier to do that. Because, on one hand, it's preference. On the other hand, it's like people just saying, I don't want to have a fight. And I think in his mind, he is just trying to, in a way, find safety for himself. I mean, if you've seen the end of the book, you know how it ends.
Yes.
He's looking for that sort of personal safety also. And I think that had he married a black lady, he couldn't have anticipated how the book's going to end. But I think that there's a part of like, yeah, I married a black girl. A white girl, and that's going to make this a bit easier for me in the long run. Yes.
Wow. The book seems sometimes like it's set in New Orleans and other times like it's not exactly set in New Orleans. What would you tell the readers at Southeastern who are mostly in freshman and sophomore English classes about whether or not this book is about New Orleans.
New Orleans is a fictional town, and what I mean by that, not to be facetious, is that, like, for example, right now I'm in Oxford, Mississippi, North Mississippi, and this town is just kind of what it is. If you're from here, you live here, you all know each other. It is what it is. It's 30,000 people. There's a town square. It has a history. So much of what New Orleans is designed by sort of like marketing and myth and legend and outsiders' perspectives. The sort of classic, I'm gonna go down to New Orleans, go down to Bourbon Street and pull my shirt up to get some Mardi Gras beads. There's nobody from the city who would ever do that sort of thing. But there are many people from the city who would encourage you to do those sort of things because they want you to have a good time so we can make money. So, New Orleans is a city that like puts on a mask and it tries to make money off of your fantasies and dreams. Like Vegas and Disney World and a few other places around the world, it's like Pleasure Island. So it's sort of like fake on the outside, but the inside is full of real people, real lives. So in the book, I wanted to sort of have that sort of feeling and effect, but I also wanted to have control over it. It could be the case that in this future, it really was New Orleans at one point, but maybe it got like bought out by like Coca-Cola and they changed the name to the city. Who knows? But I just say, from a sort of writing perspective, I wanted to have total control over like the streetcar lines and the buildings and the mansions and the skyscrapers and the way the river is made, because it was just easier. I didn't want somebody being like, there's a little river that turns like that next to a shopping center in New Orleans. So when you create your own setting, you can do whatever you want to do, and that's a lot of fun to do.
Thank you very much for taking the time to explain these things to us as we begin our reading of this book. I have obviously already read this book before I talked to you today, and I can hardly wait to come to campus and meet our students and tell them even more about what you've been doing as a project in this book. It is a valuable American document. Thank you so much.